Wolf, both candidates came in tonight knowing that Iran is one of the biggest issues out there, Iran's nuclear ambitions, and that it's been a big issue since the first day Barack Obama took office. Listen.
We then organized the strongest coalition and the strongest sanctions against Iran in history. The disagreement I have with Governor Romney is that during the course of this campaign, he's often talked as if we should take premature military action. I think that would be a mistake.
I think from the very beginning, one of the challenges we've had with Iran is that they have looked at this administration and felt that the administration was not as strong as it needed to be. I think they saw weakness. And I think that when the president said he was going to create daylight between ourselves and Israel, that they noticed that as well.
They agree on many points here. Each man says Iran will not get a nuke on my watch. Each one says economic sanctions are an important tool. Each one allows us how a military strike might be necessary to stop Iran's nuclear program. But they do not agree on where you put the emphasis in this equation. And that has led each to suggest for months now that my opponent is being reckless with Iran. Let's talk about the two extremes we're talking about here, starting with the military option. And to do that, what we brought in here is a life-size virtual model of a Shahab-3 missile. We did this because we want you to see just what size these things are and how portable they are and how easily one could be hidden in a bunker or, say, the hold of a ship. We know they're reasonably accurate, reasonably reliable. We know Iran has a lot of them, and we know that they're powerful enough to carry a small nuclear weapon in that nose cone right up there. So if they get a nuclear weapon, Iran would have the ability to deliver it. Not to the United States, not even to Europe, really, except to the fringes, but it would reach all of the Middle East, and it would certainly have the range to strike the American ally, Israel, over there. Iran says it has no designs on developing a nuclear bomb. It does not want to strike Israel, and yet it is widely believed that Israel does have a contingency plan for striking Iran's nuclear production facilities to try to stop this if need be. The danger? No one knows if it would really work. And if it didn't work, Iran would not only still have a nuclear program, it would then have the pretext for saying it needed it because it had been attacked. But when Mitt Romney talks about strength, even though he was treading lightly tonight, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the notion that the president has to make it very, very clear that America will stand with Israel if such an assault happens. Wolf?
Tom, as you noted, the White House has said it will stand by Israel, but officials have clearly downplayed the idea of military intervention. What's going on here?
Yeah, the White House has preferred not to talk about the military part, but to talk much more about the idea of sanctions, to not rattle the sword, but to rattle the piggy bank. What they're talking about is the rial. This is the currency of Iran. And since sanctions have been put in place by the United States and other countries, look what's happened in the past year. It used to be 12,500 rials to a U.S. dollar. That has dropped and dropped and dropped in value so much that now it's 35,000 to the U.S. dollar. Many imported products like red meat in Iran are now twice as expensive as they were 1 year ago. What has that done? The idea is that that creates economic and social and political pressure on the leaders of Iran so that they have to negotiate about that nuclear program. They have to be willing to say, we'll give up some of that if you'll let up on these sanctions a little bit. So that brings us back to our basic claim here. The danger of all of that is, what if they keep saying, we'll negotiate here, but they're secretly building up a weapon over there? Who's being reckless about all of this? The simple truth is we have to give this a rating of incomplete because nobody really knows until this story plays out. Only when Iran either gives up its nuclear program or announces it has a bomb will we know who was reckless and who was right. Wolf?